Hello and welcome to this very special painting tutorial from the AVY Painting Studios Japan. I'm Josh and I'm here to talk about banners and how to make your very own banner. In the 4th edition and 2nd edition codexes, there was a page inserted in the book that gave you all these black and white templates for banners which you could photocopy. I would then varnish using a matte or gloss varnish or satin varnish and brush it on or spray it onto the banner and then paint it and apply it to my models after cutting it out. Today we're going to look at a banner for an ogre standard bearer which was not contained within the Orc and Goblin army book, and that was featured in a White Dwarf article but had no sort of black and white stencil, so it means that I need to create one from scratch. So in this very quick 10-minute video, I'm going to explain how to go about doing that. Firstly, I'm just using some just standard photocopy paper, and I had to measure out the size of the banner pole, and then accordingly adjust those measurements and make myself a banner that will be wide enough, that not too wide, not too narrow, and then draw in the exact design going by the White Dwarf article when they were featured and released, and try to get a similar design. Now if you cannot draw and your drawing skills are not that refined, just take your time with it. Just try to get something that's close enough to it. And I mean, I'm not the best drawer in the world. I'll happily admit that, but I'll have a good go at it and see if I get something that's close enough to the original, and then work with that as best I can. So that's what I'm going to do here, and try to get it as close as I can to the original. And then if I do make some kind of drawing error, maybe I can correct that in the painting process later. So once you've got a detailed sort of outline of the drawing, then you can go in a little bit heavier and work in the extra details, just so that you have a very good outline of what you're going to paint in the next step. Just using an eraser, I'm just going to take out the lines and any sort of mistakes or anything that's not going to be part of the banner, because I want that nice and clean and nice and clear before applying the varnish, so that I don't have any sort of lead lines in places where it might stick through the paint and ruin my banner. So I'm going to apply a varnish. Now this is a varnish that I got from Liquitex from my local art store. It's a permanent matte varnish, but you could use a satin varnish or a gloss varnish. Any of those would be fine. I'm going to sort of brush this on. Now you could spray it on with an airbrush or spray it on with a particular aerosol can or whatever it might be, whatever it gets that varnish on, because the reason why is that we want to seal the paper. We do not want that paper absorbent, and because if you just apply paint directly onto that, it will just absorb it straight into the paper, and it makes the paper all wet and furry, and it's just going to ruin everything. So I want to do this twice, at least twice, to make sure I've got good coverage of the paper as well. Now you'll see the paper will curl up. I've applied it with some masking tape just to seal it down, just to keep it down on my workbench on my cutting board. Now I'm going to apply some red paint when that's dry, and just go through the outlines. This is not really a tutorial, it's just kind of like just showing the process of how to do it, so that you could apply these kind of techniques, if you like, to your own banners when you make your own, if you need to make some kind of self-made banners. Here I'm just applying just the colours directly from what I can see in the picture from the White Dwarf. So for the bone, I'm just using bleach bone and using ivory as well to highlight that. The red, of course, was just vermilion. That's just these. I'm just using Vallejo paints. I do have a like a technical pen, which is 0.3 of a millimeter. And I'm using that just to outline the most darkest, blackest areas of the banner. You could do this by brush, of course, but I mean, I find the pen just more exact, and it just gives me exactly where I want to go. So don't feel like that's cheating at all. If you need to use a technical pen, please go ahead. And as you can see here, I know I've sort of sped it all up just to save on time, but you need to go back and forth, blend it through in areas, and sort of just it's not an easy process. I mean, it's quite a technical thing, making a banner and painting it. So it will take time, and so don't rush it. I mean, if things don't look great the first time, or within the first 20 minutes, just step away, come back to it, and then just see how you go. And you need to adjust, and things won't go perfectly well first on your first attempt, because it's just like painting a picture. You need to create a sense of depth, and you need to make sort of angled lines and give definition to things, which is what the models have already, because they're all in three dimensions. But this is just a two-dimensional flat piece of paper. So yeah, it does take time, and you just need to keep at it and see how you go with it, and don't get too frustrated. And as you can see from when I'm working on a banner, it's not just a quick fix. It takes a lot of time, and going back and forth, blending the colors in, correcting lines which I think are a bit sort of dull and flat, and making sure things look really sharp and really clear, and that will take it could take several hours to get to a point where I feel really happy with it. And sometimes I'm not working on it all the time. Sometimes I'm working on other models, and I'll just pick it up every now and again and work on it for about 30 minutes to an hour or something like that. And then step away, look at it, and think, okay, well, I need to make it a little bit darker here, or a bit more lighter here in these areas, and go from there. Now, instead of using blacks to define areas of colour, try to use a colour that's darker. So, for example, I'm using browns for the gloves, but I'm using Hull Red, which is another Vallejo model colour paint, to do the sort of the dark areas around the edges of the knuckles, inside the joints of the fingers, that kind of thing. For the greys, you can use just a really dark grey, or just mix some black into your base colour grey to get that effect. For the bone, you're looking for maybe a darker brown, or even just some ink. Now, if you do have inks, it's a really good way to use for banners, because inks are really nice and thinned out. They've got a lot of vibrancy to the colour, and of course I'm using paints here, but if you have like a vast range of different coloured inks, maybe you want to just try to ink it in rather than paint it in. And I believe when in the time I was working in the studio, they used a lot of inks to colour in the banners at that stage. So inks are a really good way to create, again, a very vibrant colour to your banners, and very thinned out, so that the paint can draw out quite a long way, and can give these really nice effects. So at this stage we can really see the banner taking shape, and I'm really getting to a point where I'm quite happy with everything. Okay, it's not exactly perfect, it's not exactly the same as the original banner, but hey, I'm pretty happy with this at this stage. Now with the red, it's kind of flat. Now if you look at the studio version, it's kind of a flat color too. There aren't many many highlights or variations in folds in the fabric and that kind of thing. So I thought, just for myself, I thought I'll just put some folds in here to look like the fabric sort of hanging and has weight. So to do that, I just added some Hull Red into the base red color, and just painted some curved lines just around the areas where you would want tension in the fabric. And then to highlight it, just use some like a flesh color. I use like sunny skin tone, that kind of thing, or an ivory. Again, these are Vallejo colors that I use, and you can use that as a mid-tone highlight, and you can just run that line across just the upper line, just above the darkened line on the ridges of those folds, just to create some definition there. And at this stage I finished my banner. I've cut it out and I've painted the back side of the banner as well, again varnishing it first and then painting it red. But yeah, that's basically how to do it, guys. That's how to make your banners. Okay, so have a go at yourself. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about that you want to ask me about them, and I hope you have the greatest success in creating your banners for your armies, because nothing looks better than a painted banner in your regiments. Take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye. Thanks again for watching, guys, and if you would like to support myself being a video creator and a full-time miniature painter, please consider becoming a patron. Here I've set up tiers where we can have painting lessons one-on-one, or if you just want to support the channel and get some early access videos, or maybe you want to just make a one-off donation to enable me to buy some paints or some brushes or that kind of thing. Everything helps. So thanks again for your support. Hope you enjoyed the video, and there'll be many more to come. And thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye.